Welcome to a short video on collecting information presented by the Student Affairs Assessment Support Service at James Madison University. You may already be familiar with the assessment cycle, so I won't walk you the whole way through. Typically, though, you will want to start the cycle by establishing objectives for your program. What is it that students should be able to think, know, or do as a result of your program? Next, map your program objectives and then select or design instruments to measure student learning associated with those objectives. Another crucial step is to ensure that your programming is actually being implemented as you've intended. In other words, we look for implementation fidelity. Once you feel confident that the first part of the cycle is complete, you will want to collect information, also known as data, which is the focus of this video. Prior to collecting information, however, there are a number of questions that you will want to consider. Prior to collecting data, consider the following. What or about whom do you want to make inferences? Are you interested in information about everyone you serve or the entire population? Or are you interested in students who participated in a particular sub-program? Or is your program so large that you want to collect information from a sample representative of the entire group of program participants? What level of participant do you want to make inferences about? For example, you might direct a program in which students mentor other students. Are you interested in assessing the knowledge of the mentors, the students the mentors work with, or both? Or you may direct a program such as Alternative Break Service Learning, in which some students serve as trip leaders and others participate in the trip. Are your objectives geared toward assessing the knowledge, skills, or abilities of the leaders, the participants, or both? Do you want to compare the students who participate in your program to students who did not participate in your program? Additionally, you'll want to consider, how often do you want to collect data? This answer will be shaped in part by the nature of your program. For example, maybe you administer a semester-long program, in which case you might want to assess students each semester. Or you may administer a shorter program, such as orientation, in which you would like to assess students before and after their orientation session. Perhaps you administer a program sporadically and wish to assess students each time the program is administered. You will also want to consider the type of design that is most appropriate. For example, perhaps your student learning objectives indicate that you hope to see some student growth or change over time. If so, you'd be interested in some sort of longitudinal or pre-post change over time. In contrast, perhaps you're not necessarily interested in change over time, but you're interested in a certain level of student competency. For example, some judicial affairs programs desire to ascertain that students have knowledge about the effect of various drugs. A one-shot test that measures student knowledge may be appropriate to ensure that they do in fact know that information. Or you may be interested in the competency or attitudes of the students who participate in your program relative to students who did not participate in your program. Are the students themselves the best source of information? If you're assessing a particular skill, it might be more important to obtain ratings from others than from the students themselves. For example, are student leaders always the best source of information about their own leadership skills? It may be more appropriate to also ask those who are being led or an independent observer to rate the students' leadership skills. Another example is the Federal Work-Study Community Service Learning Program, in which students are employed within the community. The students' employers may provide information above and beyond students' own self-assessment of their own skills. Along with considerations about the source and frequency of data collection, you will also want to consider the type or format of data that best suits your purpose. Often we collect information via questionnaires. The video on selecting or designing instruments addresses the type of questionnaires or measures that you can adopt. Once you've done so, you can administer your questionnaire as an electronic survey, such as emailing students a link through a survey administration program, such as Qualtrics, or another alternative is to administer your questionnaire as a paper-pencil survey. In contrast, you may want to collect information by talking face-to-face with your students. You may find that a semi-structured interview best suits your needs, particularly if you are in the beginning stages of developing your program. For example, an exit interview with students, one-on-one, may provide you with the information about what students gained or didn't gain from the program. Some programs choose to conduct focus groups, asking small groups of 6 to 8 students questions that are directly related to the program's objectives. Other programs that want to assess knowledge quickly and during programming have adopted clickers. When you use a clicker, you embed questions within a PowerPoint presentation for purposes of assessing student knowledge or attitudes in real time. More recently, some programs have begun asking students to scan their ID cards so that they have information on who has attended their program. They can then follow up with the students for further assessment. As you decide whether to administer an electronic or a paper-pencil questionnaire, it is important to realize that there are benefits and drawbacks to each approach. The benefits of electronic data collection are that electronic questionnaires are easy to send to everyone, as long as you have their email addresses. Students can then respond at their own convenience. Responses from electronic questionnaires are unambiguous compared to trying to read handwriting, and you can set the questionnaire to require or force responses as the student moves through the pages of the questionnaire. Additionally, with electronic questionnaires, you do not need to hand enter any data. It's already there for you, and most programs enable you to easily and quickly download the data. Some programs even provide preliminary data summaries. Electronic questionnaires also minimize paper waste. However, nothing is ever perfect. There are also some drawbacks to electronic data collection. Although students can respond at their own convenience, as the data collector, you do not have any control or standardization in your data collection. It is also not unusual for students to forget and complete the survey multiple times. For this reason, you may want to put some controls in place, such as linking your survey to IDs when ethical. Other questions you may want to ask yourself is whether or not the students that your program serves actually do check their email, and how often. And do students tend to check their email at a computer, or on their phone, or on their tablet even? If they rely on their phone, they can complete your questionnaire on the phone or not. Is there an app for that? Given your consideration of these drawbacks, you may want to think about the impact that will have on the response rate you receive. Of course, we would ideally like data on all of the students in our program, but what percentage are you satisfied having data on? It's not uncommon to hear from 20 or 30% of the people to whom you send an electronic survey. Are you satisfied with that response rate? Finally, is it really the student completing the survey, or is it a friend sitting next to him or her on the couch? We don't know that. If any of these drawbacks are ones that impact the quality of your data, you may want to weigh it against the benefits and drawbacks of paper-pencil data collection. One benefit of paper-pencil data collection is that students are captive. In other words, they are there in your presence, you know they are filling it out, and you may have a feel for the effort that they are putting forth. For example, you may want to collect data at an event that your program is hosting, during which most students are in attendance. Pencil paper surveys are also appealing when you don't have email addresses or you work with a population of student that does not check email regularly. And although hand entry of data gets a bad rap, it does give a person familiarity with the data, and you have a hard copy of the data if that's desirable to you. As with electronic data collection, there are also drawbacks to paper-pencil data collection. Although hand entry allows you to quickly become intimate with your data, there is the laborious task of hand entry. There's labor cost, time cost, and potential human error. Also, handwriting can be difficult to decipher, or typically there may be a few people who decide to circle several response options, in which case you're left deciding what is best to enter. Paper data collection can also be expensive if you are required to make photocopies, and you are then left with the need to store or shred the surveys when finished. As you can see, neither approach is perfect, but by weighing the benefits and drawbacks, there is likely an approach that best suits your needs. In particular, you will want to consider what approach will provide you with the most accurate and complete data that best represents the students you serve. In sum, there are many considerations related to collecting information. Carefully consider the group that you want to sample and whether a pre-post timeline is the most appropriate approach. What will the information be used for? Be systematic in your data collection. Also, it is always important to treat your students' information confidentially and only ask the information that you need to know. Finally, there is no best means of collecting information. Make use of the strengths and drawbacks of each approach and have fun.